because like that had the same interests. And I mean, the internet obviously allowed that to happen on a much greater scale to the point where now it's like, I mean, part of the reason that I got my job was because I started following my boss now on Twitter and like engaging with the show. Like I wanted to know more about it. And I was like one of the fans that it wasn't enough just for me to watch it every week. Right. Just as an observer, I wanted to like have some impact on it in some little way. I think that is like people want to. I mean, I know at Comic-Con, like I was walking around with Dan, the creator of the show, and these 3 like 13-year-old kids came up to him and recognized him. And I was saying to him, like, do you know how insane that is that they recognize the creator of their favorite show? Like when I was 13, I was watching Step by Step going, I think these actors write all of this. Like I had no idea that there was like a showrunner and like a whole, but it's like the fact that like you're saying, like people recognize you, they know your name, they want to come up and say hello to you and like have that interaction means that they want that to grow that relationship in some way.
That's really interesting. I didn't think about it that way because when I was a kid, it was the same thing. Like when you watch like a multi-camera sitcom, you're just like, oh yeah, they're just kind of hanging out and seeing where it goes. Yeah. And they're like, oh man, they're so good at this. And you don't think there's any more than one take. And like, that's it. It just took half an hour to make this magic. Like, God.
Misty, you classify yourself as a nerd. Were you shy? Like before you did porn? Like, were you
no, I'm definitely still really awkwardly shy. It's funny because my friends, like, you know, when, like, you know, I'll talk all kinds of stuff to it. Like, my dude friends are like, yeah, we're totally going to hook up later. And they're like, look, you know, when it comes down to it, you're going to be like, ah. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Unless someone pays me to be like, it's like you're being paid to act, you know, like, so I can just displace my shyness and all that because it's like, oh, I'm going to be somebody else for a minute. And then I go back and I'm like, okay, don't look at me, I'm naked. This is weird.
So was it when you did porn were people like, really, you? Like, what? Maybe it wasn't so much like horror. It was just like, oh my, really? But you're the shy girl. Like,
I think some of my friends were a little surprised, you know, like, to my friends, like my girlfriends, you know, we would sit there and talk filthy things at bar, like dude walking and be like, hey, look at that, you know, things I can't even repeat.
That was super
you
filthy.
You stop it right now.
I can't even repeat what. No, really, I couldn't. You'd be amazed how filthy my friends are at home. But you know, when it comes down to it, we were, you know, like, hey, we're over here just smoking a cigarette, having a beer.
That's so interesting because I think probably I'm pretty sure I can speak for the three of us. I'm sure we all have our social anxiety still, even though I know you perform, Megan, as well. I've seen you perform comedy as well, and all of it. We all do stand up, and we all write and stuff. But I know that I still have my extreme social anxieties. Like at a party, I can get on stage in front of a bunch of people and be totally comfortable, and then like because someone's telling me, no, this is the place where you perform. But then like off stage, like someone come up to be like, you're great. I'd be like, don't talk to me. You hate me. Like go away. You know what I mean? Like it's so bizarre. But I didn't realize that before I started this podcast, I didn't realize how much. I never even thought about it as a performance. I never even thought about like your porn persona as a persona. Like it's essentially a character. Like
and it's confusing because it's both my real name and my stage name. So it's like I think if I would have picked a name, it would have been easier to turn off and on. But at the same time, it's forced me to kind of learn to have social skills in situations where there's lots of people around that I don't necessarily know what I have to do. Like, you know, in strip clubs, you know, how to go up to someone and make a conversation was like parlor conversation, as we call in the South. You know, like a polite conversation. But you don't really
with probably someone who is also very shy. That's why they're in a strip club in the first place.
So porn made you more confident.
I wouldn't say confident. It increased my social skills. I still feel like, you know, like, oh, I look fat in this outfit. I'm still a girl at the end of the day. Like, my hair sucks or something. But, like, I can go into those situations. But there's, like, the other night I was actually working over at Meltdown when they had Grant Morrison over there. And I was standing in the back when the guys working there was trying to make small talk with me. I was like, I don't know what to say. And then you sit there and you're like, I should say something right now, but I don't know.
So a lot of people are horrible at small talk. Like, I just sometimes they're just like, they'll come up and say something. And I used to, my day job used to be in the medical field, and like people who are like really anxious will just start talking about anything. And if you forget that person's anxious, you're like, why are you talking like this? Like, you sound like an idiot. What is wrong with you? But like, you're just kind of, I know exactly what you mean. You're kind of covering it up. You're covering up your own anxiety or your own, like, you're just like, okay, yeah, you can kind of just put on that layer while you're there. Kind of. Did you have a lot of issues with like anxiety in terms of going up on stage or?
Yeah, I mean, I started when I was in college, I guess. I started doing stand-up, and it was mostly because I was writing for a newspaper at U of M, and that was great, and that was a good way to get comedy out, but I was like, finally had hooked into something I loved, and it just like wasn't enough for me. And so the only other avenue was really stand up. So as much as I didn't want to be going on stage and telling the jokes, I did want to be writing jokes and hearing people laugh at them.
Right.
So I just like had to kind of get over it and go on stage. And I didn't develop a persona, I guess. I just put it out of my mind for a second while I was on stage. It's like, yeah, it's like you just shut off in some way because you're like, well, this is happening. And then, yeah, I mean, I still am really nervous about stand up when I'm not the sort of comic that if I start losing the audience, I'm like, oh, I'll get them back.
Right.
If I start losing them, I'm like, it's like a bad date. And I'm like, okay, yep, I suck. You're right. I'm just going to go home now.
No,
like, I'm
yeah.
awful. You're right. Everything you think is about me is right. Yeah.
So at this point, you do it like at this point because I know that you write full time. So like this point, you do stand up. How for what reason? Would you explain?
Just for fun. I mean, like the last show that I really did was a meltdown show, and I did that because I knew that the audiences were really great, and they knew that they would like my sort of comedy, and so I just did it for fun to like talk to a bunch of people that I thought would find it funny. And and yeah, but it's still, it's like the highs aren't ever high enough for me, and the lows are so low.
Yeah.
And I have this other venue to like get it out now, this comedy. So
Do you ever do you like with porn? Do you view it as like I mean, I know it is fun and it's like a career and everything, but do you view it as like something like there are things that you want to emotionally tackle, or like things you want to do, like things you want to push through, like kink or fetish or anything like that, like things you want to really like do, like that you never thought you would do? And
Yeah, I didn't think the tattoo thing was going to be such an issue, and then I think that carries on into people being treated equally, which really doesn't happen. And a lot of people, especially females in the industry, are afraid to stand up for when they feel that they're being treated incorrectly, or even to question, like, okay, you have to do this right now. And you're like, but that wasn't on my call sheet. And then they just do it because somebody's telling them to do it. But you have every right to question it. But a lot of women are penalized for questioning those things. And then it can hurt them for future careers. And guys can say, or directors, girls will say, if you don't do this, then I'll make sure you never work again. And you have that fear, so you want to do it. And it's such like, you're literally risking your life for these people. I mean, you can contract incurable diseases for these people to make lots of money off of you. You have every right to cover every question you want to ask about it if you're performing a job for them.
Have you had any issues with that? Like, did you
Definitely.
Can you just give an example of like what?
I've had issues. I don't know if you Star Wars thing. You know, like there's issues of people kind of telling people what they want to hear, and then at the last minute not following through. And then when you question it, they get upset. Like I was promised a role in that, and my husband was supposed to play Luke. And then it came down to it, and he got booked, and I didn't. And then we were supposed to go on a family vacation already, and it was like, well, if we're not both getting booked, it's not financially worth it to miss the family vacation that's been planned for over a year with your grandparents that are 86. It's just not worth it. And when he dropped out of it, you know, there was threats of making sure he never worked. They're going to sue me because I wrote a blog about he had originally told me that Vivid didn't approve me to work. And then so I emailed Steve Hirsch, and he actually responded to me and talked to me on the phone. And I was like, you know, I'm just curious. Is it have something to do with the tattoos? Or is it something I can fix? Like, is there a reason I didn't get this role that I can repair?
Right.
Or is it just like, I can't get it and that's fine? Like, if you don't want me, that's totally fine. And he said that Axel actually just didn't want me in the movie, but Axel had blamed it on him. He's like, I'll have Axel call you and we'll talk about it. Axel calls and just yells at me. And I did customer service on credit cards. I am used to being yelled at. So I was just like, well, thank you for your opinion. He's like, you're fat and ugly and I hate you. And I'm like, well, you know, I appreciate you calling
Well,
me.
he's got an accent that explains everything.
He's Italian,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, that caused a big rift just because I asked, like, okay, I'm not in the movie. I'm just curious why. Like, if I didn't get a job, if you didn't get a job at any job and they had you go through interview after interview, and you're like, well, why'd you have me go through all these loops if you didn't want me? Like, is there something I can do to repair that for future jobs? You know, there's definitely situations like that constantly.
I bet that's important for like also future women, because you want to create an industry for the next round of women coming into it that where that's not expected of women to just do whatever the guy says that you want.
I feel like that's already been happening. 'Cause judging from a lot of the girls we've had on, what they've said about it, it seems like there's a lot more women running things, and that not entirely, but that it's definitely going towards that.
See, I would say in the 3 years since I started that it's almost shifting backwards because
Really?
there's not as many shoots because the economy's not strong. DVDs don't sell as much. They're not really sure how to take on the internet because the internet's taking over. And instead of really should work with what's popular on the internet, like entertainment does, period. I mean, people that were famous on MySpace get attention now because that's what people notice more.
Right.
And instead of working with that, they're working against the internet. And then since there's not as many jobs to go around, a girl's more expensive to hire and she sticks out more, so she's going to work less because they're going to need her less. But the guy can just be plugged in, essentially. The guy is pretty irrelevant. And so you become buddies with the director, and you're working every day as a guy, and then if this guy doesn't like you, then it's actually becoming more of an issue than it used to be, I would say.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, it also seems like more girls, like, it used to, the paradigm used to kind of be that there were these girls who were, junkies, or, like,
Right.
they were kind of, they had, like, a guy who kind of forced them into it. Whereas now more girls are watching porn and saying, oh,
Right.
Sasha Grey can do that, so I can do that.
I definitely say that, like, compared to what you're saying, like, 10 years ago,
Right.
completely different. But at the same time, there's always still that gender struggle, and it just
Sure.
adapts to whatever is going on.
I hate men, just in case you guys are wondering.
Terrible.
But that's really interesting to me what you said about them not knowing what to do with the internet, because that's the same way with TV. It's like they know that the internet is going to destroy them, and they don't know how to work with it. So what they do is they go, oh shit, my dad said is really popular online, so we'll make a show out of it.
Right.
But then they won't, like, for instance, look at the amount of Hulu views of the show, of, like, Community, and say, oh my God, it's insanely popular online. We should adjust the ratings of the show to
reflect that.
to reflect the fact that it's, I mean, like, and I've talked to college students and stuff. It's like, do you watch our show? Yeah, it comes out at 3 a.m. on Friday morning, the day after it. And they know the internet release. They don't care about it being on TV
Right. Yeah.
anymore. It's not an inch of interest to
Well, yeah,
them.
because you don't have to be at home at 8 o'clock on a Thursday
Yeah,
if you don't want to be now. And so, like, if you know you're going to get it the next day online.
And also, like, DVD sales. I mean, our show was not super popular the first season, and yet our DVD sales were out of control, like, in comparison to the amount of ratings that we had. And it's because, like, you're dealing with this demographic now that wants to either watch it whenever they want to watch it or just watch it all at once.
Yeah.
I just want to watch the whole season at
That's
once.
what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like to do, too.
me
What was
too.
the first show I felt like that did? I think Scrubs was one of the first shows that happened, because they never did well ratings wise.
Yeah.
And then, like, but yet Zach Braff was making all that money, like, because of After Garden State especially. But, like, I feel like it was because that show got a younger demographic, and, like, the internet just kind of started up, and people were, like, just watching it all at once. I mean, I remember when I tried watching it, I wasn't, like, a huge fan of the show, but for the one season I really got into it. I watched it all at once.
Yeah.
I did not at all in any way, shape, or form was like, oh, I can't wait till next week. It was kind of like that. Although Garden State was the movie everyone loved in 04, 05, and everyone hates now, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, that movie, all of a sudden, everyone's just like, yeah, I used to watch that. Jake, you're kind of just sitting there really vacant right
Just
now.
thinking about
What's going
stuff.
on?
No, I was thinking about stuff. It's just
The internet's
beautiful.
baffling your mind.
Yeah, just thinking about stuff.
On
Yeah.
that note, let's take our final break, then let Jake get it together.
I'm Misty Dawn, and you're listening to The Morning After, and I have nothing clever.
It's okay. It actually is
Fine,
clever in
yeah.
itself.
Don't worry, it's going to come naturally any minute
Awkward
now.
silence.
So we were talking in the break about Megan. You were very curious if there was going to be a community porn.
Well, I've heard rumors that there was a community porno, and so I want to know if you'd heard about it, but you...
I have not, but I guarantee if they make it, probably only 2 people that are involved with it anyway have even seen Community.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's usually
I
how it
actually,
goes.
we got into a conversation with the girl that was talking to the showrunner about it, and I asked her, can Abed please, who's one of our characters, can whoever's playing Abed please say at some point, guys, do you feel like we're in a porno right now? It's like, everybody- 'cause-
You know what I never thought of? I know that a lot of people ask, like, who would play you in, like, the biography of your life, but I never thought, like, who would you want to play you in the porn
Oh, in the
biography of your
porn.
life? That would be incredible. Like,
be
you could, like,
interesting.
who would, I don't even know.
I don't know enough porn stars.
I think Lex Steele for me. Yeah, just.
That's a big black guy. That's his. Jake was trying to be
It's fitting.
clever.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's.
he embodies your essence.
Yeah,
though.
it's
That's
just
what you...
so neurotic.
All
Lex
14
is.
inches of yourself.
My entire body is not.
I think that's racially insensitive, Jake.
No.
Yep.
What?
We just went to a halt. Just
What?
kidding.
Oh,
Let's get us out of it.
I think it's very sensitive.
Yeah.
I actually did have a question. You mentioned your husband, and I just wanted to know in terms of it's always an interesting topic in terms of like dating or relationships in the industry, how that works, like how that works for you. I don't know when you got married. Or anything like that, but if
Yeah,
that was
married's
In
the
May.
word. That's what
Yeah.
you're looking for.
in May.
Married. Yeah, we
Married.
got married in Vegas in May.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah,
So
thank
that's
you.
pretty recent. That's good. Wait, what month is it? Yeah, it's not May, so it's at least been a month.
been a minute.
Yeah. Was that difficult for you at first? Like, did you date? Like, would you date anyone outside of the industry for a while? Like,
Actually, before him, I refused to date anybody in the industry
why?
because I wanted a separation, and a lot of people, it kind of is their life. You know, like I don't want it to be my career.